the life of the Corcoran for so many years. The first member of the faculty is retiring after many years as a teacher of foundations and first-year courses, among others, Pat&PamCorcoran2015. It is my pleasure to introduce Robert Yee, a former student of Pat's, who will say a few words about her.
Good roots. My father passed away about 4 years ago last week, and he loved gardening. And he planted a tree when I entered college many years ago. And he told me about the importance of good roots. With the right soil, rain, sun, and care, a tree will become strong and flourish, and because of its good roots. Pat&PamCorcoran2015, you have been to many of us the soil, the rain, the sun, and the one who cared. Pat was my foundation advisor, my professor, my mentor, and most importantly, my friend. Through her visual concepts class, I gained the skill to look at, admire, talk about, and write about art. She introduced me to Dada, abstract impressionism, primitivism, modernism, and postmodernism. What I gained from Pat's class, I carried through and used through my undergraduate and graduate years. I have in my notes, Gestalt. I always use the word Gestalt because of her class. I want to share with you some words from a Corcoran graduate. To Pat&PamCorcoran2015, the notion that art should question its own nature was one of the key elements examined by Pat&PamCorcoran2015 in our not-so-introductory visual concepts freshman class at the Corcoran. Pat introduced me to the works of Marcel Duchamp, Joseph Beuys, Barbara Kruger, Mara Kelly, and many others. Pat would share stories about these artists, the art world, and would often give me advice on what books to read. I remember Pat saying that we needed to learn the history of the art world and how it functioned in order for us to thrive as artists. I took these words to heart and have been following Pat's advice ever since. So Pat, I thank you for being inspiring, dedicated, and fully engaged with my needs as a freshman. Thank you for being a genuine. Thank you for treating me as a partner in learning and sharing your vast knowledge on conceptual art and feminism. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being a great teacher. May you inspire others to achieve the greatness you have. This is from Lorenzo Cardam, class of 2014, and who is now an MFA candidate at the California College of Arts. Pat comes from a golden generation of professors who are as passionate about teaching as their own art. I can only hope that I carry on the values that she has instilled in me. After more than 30 years teaching at the Corcoran, Pat has embarked on her next adventure. The Corcoran will never be the same with her absence. Everyone, please give a round of applause to my friend, Pat&PamCorcoran2015, and welcome her to the stage.
Yay, Pat!
I don't know if I could say anything that would live up to that. I can only talk a little bit about my own experience. Can you hear me okay? A little louder? Is that better?
Good.
I have a sister, a few years younger than me, who got her degree in music. But she contented herself to work for the telephone company all her life because, as she said, she didn't feel like looking for a job. She's a rather phlegmatic personality, is not terribly ambitious, and functions largely in slow motion. Despite that, she's continued to play in university and community orchestras over the years. But only recently did someone ask her to teach them to play the violin, and she consented. It was a revelation. She was surprised and astounded at how satisfying the process of teaching was. Her reaction reminded me of how incredibly lucky I have been to earn a living at something so satisfying. Initially, I had no interest in teaching. At art school, a fellow student urged me to apply to grad school because, as he said, I would just get lost. Look at me. I have never been so happily lost. When the student told me that I needed a master's degree, it made me think that all I could give students after graduating, after all that time in school, would be to just spit out what had been poured into my head, which made no sense. I wanted to test out the things I'd been taught before passing anything on to my own students. And I wasn't interested in an MFA because the school I went to, the Kansas City Art Institute, then required that students take 20 credit hours per semester for the first 2 years. So that I graduated with 103 studio credit hours in addition to all the academic courses I took. I was frankly burned out. I taught for 9 years at Corcoran's continuing ed until 1989 when there was a flood of new students and more teachers were needed in foundations and I was tapped to help out. I spent the next 22 years teaching freshmen exclusively, which gave me the advantage of knowing graduating students from all the majors. This graduating class is the last I taught as freshmen, so it seems fitting that I leave at the same time. I came to DC in late 1973 when women were protesting the Corcoran because there were no women on the faculty, nor was the work of women included in its permanent collection. In early '74, I met some of these women and participated myself in an exhibition that was part of this protest. Some of us formed a support group of women artists, many of them graduates of feminist consciousness-raising groups. We met at each other's houses monthly to talk about our work, to encourage each other, and to share exhibition opportunities. It was an exciting time when the Washington Women's Art Center was formed and where the Washington Women's Slide Registry was kept. Also formed were a number of women artist-run co-ops, such as Studio Gallery and Foundry Gallery, which still exist, the latter which I myself ran for a year. Ultimately, some of these women were hired by the Corcoran, and through them, I was hired. And for those of you who complain that those who get ahead do so because of who they know, I say pay attention to those you know. Help out your friends, ask them for help. They're who you know. For someone who's not a very political animal, it impressed me that if you're unhappy with your situation, you can create your own opportunities. Or as my mother advised, start your own fad. My mother was a nut job. But she had a point. It has been a privilege and a joy to teach. And teaching at an art school is one of the best gigs one can have. Students want to be here. I'm very grateful to have had the opportunity to teach among the fabulous faculty here and to the best students one could ask for. And though I mostly taught in one outpost campus or another, I'm still grateful that I was affiliated with this historic building and all the great art that passed through it. I hope you encounter as much luck and satisfaction as I have. Don't let anybody cow you. Keep in touch with your curiosity at all times. And if it's not fun, stop doing it.
These are the sad parts. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks, Robert, and thank you very much, Pat. I would now like to ask Catherine Elkins, a former student in the art education program, to say a few words about her Professor Pamela Lawton. Please join me on
Good evening, I'm Kate Elkins, a 2012 graduate from the Corcoran's Master of Art and Art Education program. I'm honored to be with you tonight to have the opportunity to introduce an accomplished artist, educator, and author, Dr. Pamela Lawton. Actually, Pam's accomplishments are really, really long, so I'm not going to read them all. What I'd really like to talk about is Pam's role as a mentor. Pam has had a profound impact on so many of us in this room tonight. She encourages us to be teachers who create art as well as artists who teach, a tough balance. She also stresses the importance of bringing art experiences to our local communities. Without Pam and the program that she crafted, many of us wouldn't be the teachers that we are today. As students in Pam's education classes, we learned that all voices are equal, all ideas matter. She uses her classroom to model how to teach. As a thesis advisor, Pam's students become lifelong researchers and published writers. As artists, Pam's students learn how art can bring a community together. For example, creating gigantic printing plates in a local community center with wood, a jigsaw, and a steamroller. Unfortunately, I wasn't involved in that project, but I definitely heard about it. Her departure is bittersweet. Although sad to see her go, we know that just 2 hours south, there's a group of young educators who don't even know how lucky they are. Pam is an extraordinary person, and we're all going to miss her presence here tremendously. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Pamela Lawton to the stage.
What I decided to do, instead of giving a speech, is to sing a song. So let me get my pitch and hope that I don't stray over too much. I'm going to put this down just a little bit. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to live with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is your to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a lovely that your heart will lie peaceful and calm when you go to your rest, and the world will be better for this, that one person spoiled